Hey everyone, Dinosaur here. Today, we're talking about Ghoti. So, Ghoti, or how you could also pronounce it, fish, was an archetype that was first introduced in 2022's Power of the Elements. This set also introduced two heavy hitters known as Sprite and Tearlaments, and Ghoti sort of got pushed off to the side while those two battled it out, with Tearlaments eventually winning and becoming that Tier 0 meta deck that we all either love or hate. But let's take a look at what Power of the Elements had to offer for these mysterious fish monsters. Power of the Elements offered two main deck Ghoti monsters with Paces, Light of the Ghoti, and Shift, Fairy of the Ghoti. These two were very promising cards as they are not only good normal summons, but also allow you to synchro summon on your opponent's turn, which we will cover more on that later. Power of the Elements also introduced us to two synchro monsters with Ascan, the bicorned Ghoti, and their boss monster, Ghoti of the Deep Beyond. All four of these cards are a massive part of Ghoti's strategy and see play at multiple copies in Ghoti builds. Lastly, we were given a trap with Ghoti Chain. This card was a part of the early strategy but no longer is required for Ghoti's consistency. I almost forgot to mention one of the most important cards, the Most Distant Deepest Depths. This card allows you to banish a fish monster from your hand or graveyard to search a Ghoti monster. It also can't be destroyed or banished while you control a fish synchro monster, allowing for some follow-up after you summon Ghoti of the Deep Beyond. Continuing on with Ghoti, Darkwing Blast brought us some cards that really made Ghoti a playable engine, starting with Zep, Ruby of the Ghoti. This card is a utility piece that allows for a quick synchro summon if it's banished during your opponent's turn. This card notably pairs with Snopia, Shade of the Ghoti, for an easy Ascan on your opponent's first turn while going second. We were also given Ixip, Omen of the Ghoti, the level 4 non-tuner fish that summons itself from hand if a fish monster is banished. Ixip is important because we now have a level 6 synchro with Ariampos, Serpent of the Ghoti. Ariampos is the most important addition to Ghoti that we've seen so far. It banishes a fish from your deck on summon, allowing for follow-up beyond that. And when it's used for a synchro summon, you can banish a fish from your graveyard to add a fish from your deck to hand that is equal to or less than that monster's level, and it can even banish itself for that. We were also given Guoglim, Spear of the Ghoti, who was a follow-up Battle Shenanigans card. Unfortunately for Guoglim, it isn't that good, so it doesn't see any play in Ghoti decks, except for the rare sideboard instance. This time around, we also had two trap cards to consider, Ghoti Fury and Ghoti Cosmos. Both of these cards were really only used in the battle phase, with Ghoti Cosmos being a last resort to summoning Ghoti of the Deep Beyond. Neither of these saw too much play, and now with newer strategies, probably never will. Our last bit of Ghoti support arrived with Phantom Nightmare, the set that started Yubel's recent meta journey. There were many cards introduced in this set that Ghoti and Fish Synchro decks would utilize, but only two of them were actually Ghoti cards. Starting with Keef, Merc of the Ghoti, the first and only level 2 Ghoti monster that is not a tuner. This card can be special summoned from your hand if there is a fish monster on either side of the field, and it also acts as a resource recovery card and gets you a level 6 or lower fish monster back from banish that you may need to use again, while also banishing one of your opponent's monsters at the low cost of banishing itself. But just like all the Ghoti do, it does come back later if you have a zone open for it. Sykes, Moonlight of the Ghoti, was also introduced to us with Phantom Nightmare, and this is easily the second best Ghoti card ever printed. When you normal or special summon this card, you can search for any fish monster from your deck and add it to your hand. Then banish fish monster from your field or hand, allowing for some crazy Zep plays, or just to fix your hand. Also, when it is banished, you may banish a fish monster from your graveyard in order to special summon it. Being a level 6 monster means that you can banish it from your deck with Ariampos and use its effect just for making a level 6 synchro monster. Now, Ghoti needs a little bit of extra support in order to function properly, and with that comes the White Aura cards. So, these cards have sort of seen scattered support throughout the last couple years, but recently gotten some new cards in Phantom Nightmare. Let's check them out and see how they help our beloved Ghoti monsters. White Aura has been around for a while now, and they really do lend some amazing support to Ghoti, notably the Synchro monsters themselves. White Aura Whale and Monoceros were always used in water synchro strategies, but are almost abusable with the Ghoti cards. Using Whale to wipe your opponent's attack position monsters when they least expect it on their turn is an amazing way to catch your opponent off guard or hit their resources where it hurts. Monoceros is more of a synchro climbing card, or resource recovery by special summoning a fish monster from your graveyard when it's synchro summoned. Both of these cards can also return from the graveyard if they are destroyed by battle or card effect. They will also be treated as a tuner, so they are hard to remove. Plus, if you have White Reincarnation on your field when that happens, you get to hit your opponent's monsters again. The White Aura main deck monsters are also pretty good consistency pieces for Ghoti. White Sardine sends a copy of itself for cost to summon from hand, making this card almost not even worth your opponent interacting with, and gets around Ash Blossom and Joyous Springs. So this is a free body on board, and a free fish in your graveyard for cards like Deepest Depths, or to banish it from one of your Ghoti effects. Next is White Sunfish. This is the level 4 that can summon itself and another fish from graveyard if you control one with the same name, making it combo very well with Sardine. And unfortunately for White Moray, it doesn't often see play, as it only has its effect when it's summoned from graveyard, which the other two monsters also have. White Aura Porpoise is a recent addition to the ranks as the new level 6 Synchro, alongside Dolphin. Porpoise has pretty much taken over Dolphin's spot in the extra decks, however, as it just has more utility, being able to potentially summon 2 more monsters to your field when it's synchro summoned. Mixed with White Reincarnation, summoning Porpoise makes more sense, since you could easily have multiple copies of a fish monster in order to fulfill that full effect. White Reincarnation and White Mirror are really the only 2 spells worth mentioning in reference to Ghoti. While there is Arbitration of White, the trap card, and White Circle Reef, they don't really see any play with Ghoti, and it's just because they aren't adding to Ghoti's strategy. White Mirror has the potential to get a bit more out of your fish, but this card seldom sees inclusion anymore in Ghoti decks. White Reincarnation, however, absolutely does. This card searches you a fish that can treat itself as a tuner, and also has some punishing board breaking potential when a level 8 or higher fish synchro monster is summoned from your graveyard. Now, obviously, that's not all of what can be found in a Ghoti deck. There's plenty of other generic water and fish support that has to be brought up when talking about Ghoti. Cards from other archetypes like Fishborg Harpooner or Marinsa's Coral Anemone, for example, are often found in Ghoti builds to help them with their playlines. So let's browse some of those and see why they matter so much. Fishborg Harpooner is an awesome addition to Ghoti, mostly because it's a level 4 tuner that can be used with White Sardine to make Ariampos. This deck only needs one of it because it can be searched by Abyss Shark's effect. Both of these cards add some pretty serious consistency to the strategy, and will always find a home in fish synchro decks. Newer additions to the deck include Drake Shark and Area the Water Channeler. These are flavorful cards that are put in when someone feels they need to search a certain card or turbo out a totally awesome using Bahamut Shark. Lifeless Leaffish and Silent Sea Nettle both add to the rank 4 power of this deck, while also providing level 4 monsters for your Synchro 6 plays. Murray of Avarice is a really easy way to banish a fish from your field when you need it to be, and you get to draw 2 cards off of that. Ice Jade Ran Azurine and Ice Jade Gamir Azurine both see play in water decks as a way to stop your opponent from destroying your combo going second, or going first to prevent them from breaking your board. Tidal, Dragon Ruler of Waterfalls, is an excellent way to put a body on board for link material, and even banish some fish from your graveyard when you need them for the next turn. Ravenous Crocodragon Archetype is your level 9 synchro that can destroy something on the field and draw you some extra cards. Finally, Marinsa's Coral Anemone is one of the best ways to get another tuner on the field by reviving one of your White Aura cards, and Abyss Keeper is the best way to summon a fish monster from your hand that you need on the field now. Haggard Lizardos was a pretty comedic addition to Ghoti, allowing you to banish a fish for cost, changing a monster's attack, and potentially drawing you a card in certain situations. Sword Soul Supreme Sovereign Chenyang is a card that benefits immensely from Ghoti's engine, and Synchro Zone is extremely playable and is still one of the few floodgates that is at 3 in the TCG. So that's about all there is for Ghoti, but There's always going to be more water support that comes out and can always bring a deck into light. So maybe one day Ghoti will be considered meta. I didn't even mention on cards like Butaniful Princess. It's just that sometimes it sees play and sometimes it doesn't. So it's not necessarily a Ghoti card, but it can really help. I don't like the card personally because I think it bricks a little bit, but to each their own. So I've been Danosaur. Thank you for watching. Please let me know if you'd like to see some play lines or, some live gameplay of Ghoti. This is one of my favorite decks that I've ever built. It's kind of a pet deck for me. So leave it in the comments below and tell me what you think. Thank you.